All right, I got a couple of announcements for you. If we have not met yet, my name's Donovan, one of the pastors here at the church, and we're back to normal, as in like couple services, and we got kids been in both services, like awesome. And we're here, like back to school for some of you, back to regular work schedule, like that's delightful. So here are my couple of announcements, and then Abby will come up and she'll share an announcement too. So we have a pastor that we sent a number of years ago to North Dakota, to Candu, North Dakota. His name is Jeff Peters. Jeff and his family Karen, or Jeff and Karen and their family. Jeff and his family Karen, that's wild. Jeff and Karen and their family, and they are in Candu, and we've wanted to go out there for a long time, and over COVID we haven't been able to. And so they have invited us to come, or Jeff and I, we meet every other week, and we were talking about someday when we're able, we want to be together again. So I don't know what it looks like to get over the border. I don't know about any of that stuff. You'll have to determine that. But October the 9th, they are doing a service, Sunday service in the morning. They're doing a prayer time together with their church after that. We are invited to come and be together with them, which is going to be fabulous. And like 15 to 20 people can come already on the 8th and be hosted by their church people. Now, that might change. Jeff will let me know this weekend if all of a sudden like 30 can come on Saturday. So I won't be preaching here, but we'll do it there. I think we're going to help with some worship. We're going to pray together with them. And if you'd like to come with us to go and encourage the church, it's a small church in the middle of like North Dakota, a little community. And Jeff has a big rockin' red beard down to here. And everyone knows him in the community because he's just so involved and loving the people, and like to invite you. So anyone who would want to come and join us, just take that little card that's in the back of the chair and just write, I want to come to Candu, and throw it in there, your contact, put it in the box, or come and give it to me. And if you just started coming, you're like, that sounds fantastic, I'd like to go. That's fine, you can. And some will just come up on the 9th. We're still going to have services here, but we just want to go and encourage and bless them. So that's October 8th, 9th. Got it? Any questions? Yeah, it's going to be awesome, Alan. I agree. Okay, Abby. Abby has an announcement for you. Brace yourselves. Because what we just did in worship is like, oh man, here we go.
All right. Awesome. Oh, there it is. It's happened again the first service. It's like, am I on? And then halfway through, I scare myself. Yeah, so we have our Engage and Equip weekend coming up pretty soon. A lot of you guys are like, I have no idea what that means. I'm going to give a bit of an overview. Basically, from September 30th until October 2nd, and right now this is the time when you're pulling out your phone, you're writing it down. If you're old school, you're writing it down actually with a pen.
True.
We're going to be having the church open for kind of a set-apart weekend in order to engage with God and to be further equipped in different ways. And so it's going to be starting on Friday around 4 o'clock. And we're going to have some supper together, some homemade soup and buns, and then we're going to transition into kind of like it's a 24/7 kind of style, 24/2, I think Donovan's been calling it, 24/2, style of prayer, of worship, and also some different kind of teachings / workshop-y things happening on the Saturday. And so we'll be having different things, like we got a bunch of different worship sets that are going to be taking place. We're going to have different congregational kind of intercession moments or hours. We're going to have midnight prayer walks around Fort Garry, which is awesome, led by Ashley and Corey, which is going to be sweet. And then we're going to be having, like 3 to 4 a.m. worship set. We're all going to be looking gross and feeling great. This could be awesome. And then also you're invited to fast with us if you want to take part in that, which is really awesome. And I feel like I'm missing something. Oh yeah, and the service will look, or the sanctuary will look different. So we'll have different kind of areas set up for the whole time. So there'll be kind of art journaling area. If that's a really awesome way that you like to engage with the Lord, that'll kind of be set up for you. And then we'll have different places around, different openings and spaces. And you're welcome to stay the night. So I'm probably going to bring my sleeping bag and sleep in the basement somewhere. And just kind of wake up and pray and go to bed. It's going to be amazing. So we have a couple needs. Right now our main need is we would love if we had some men who would like to volunteer for some security, especially during the night hours. We just tend to get a lot of people that just like to wander in, and that's awesome if they want to pray. Not so awesome if things get stolen, which has happened. So
many times.
And so if you're like, hey, I got nothing up, I said in the earlier service, said like Daryl has a really scary face and really intimidating presence. So if you know Daryl, that is not the case. You don't have to be scary or intimidating. Just we'd need a presence during those like 2, 4 a.m., those kind of times. So if that interests you at all, then just email me or find me after, and I'll write your name down. Abby at your anchor point, ABI, is how you spell my name. It's confusing. And I think that's it. So it's going to be really awesome. Again, that's September 30th till October 2nd.
Awesome. That's good. Yeah. I stole it. Okay, I didn't steal it. Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you, Abby, and the rest of you. That's going to be an amazing time. Again, just sensing God's great pleasure for that. I think it's going to be great. And none of you have anything up at nighttime anyway, so expect the nighttime to be packed. Because what else are you going to do? Sleep? And again, the last thing is children's ministry. If you'd like to be involved in the church, kids is where we have a need because it keeps growing and there's lots of babies being born and lots of babies that are about to be born. And if you want to, as everyone looks at the stomachs of those who are pregnant. But yeah, it's a fantastic place to get connected. I think there was a few people already after the first service who connected in and said, we want to come and do it. But it's such a good way to meet people in the church. It's really good if you have not been a parent before, but maybe you want to be one day. It's great to hold kids and learn what it's all about, and you just have them for an hour and a half, which is splendid. And it really gives a relief to parents that they get to come and just be in here, which is lovely. It's a gift, and we would love to have a one-on-one ratio in the basement. We're not there right now, but that would be amazing because kids, the more adults that love God that can be in their lives, the better. So this is not my just drag and snag you to get in there. I could tell you that you won't go to heaven unless you look after kids, but that would be abuse and manipulative, and that is not true. But anyway, if you at all have an inkling and you would like to, even if it's every other week or once a month or every week, now with 2 services, what is beautiful is you can serve in one, come to church in the other, and that's a really beautiful combination and connection. So there we have it. All right, we're on a series, and I will not even make it to the part of the message that I planned. I didn't in the first service, and then we did additional worship here and prayer, so we won't make it at all, and that's okay. Equipping the Saints is what the series is that we're on. And it comes out of Ephesians chapter 4, 11 and 12, and a really common passage, and we use it here quite a bit, but Christ himself gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the pastors, and teachers to equip his people for works of service, so that the body of Christ may be built up until all reach unity in the faith and the knowledge of the Son of God and become mature, attaining to the whole measure of the fullness of Christ. My job is to equip the saints, and part of equipping is teaching, for sure. But there's a lot of teaching that happens, and often very little, what do we do with things that we've been taught? So coming out of this last weekend, so I did the first time we did on planting seeds, like a mustard seed, the kingdom of God, a little seed is planted, you begin a little bit and it starts to grow and develop from there and impacts people's lives. Last week I talked about words, the words that we speak and how we speak them, and they can be critical and they can be encouraging and uplifting, and what does Scripture teach? And I looked at probably, a half a dozen to a dozen passages on our words and the mandate from God on how we speak and what we speak about and what that looks like. And so there was a number of people that sent in questions, or Donovan, what about this? And how do you do this? And what would you do in this situation? And so I wanted to practically give some examples and finish off kind of a message on the words that we speak, but very, very practical to start. And that was supposed to be the intro to my message, and it won't be the intro. It will be almost the entirety of what the message is. So my question first, and you can answer, and that would be lovely. What does it mean to equip the saints for what? Okay, that's a sort of not rhetorical, but just think about this for a second. What does it mean to equip the saints, and what are you equipping them for? What is equipping actually for? So I just want you to think about it. And you're going to give me examples in a moment. But what does it mean? Why is equipping the saints important? And what are we equipping for? I wrote down a definition that I just made up, but I think it's right, or at least in part right. I think it means participating in work that impacts the kingdom of heaven. Participating in work that impacts the kingdom of heaven. So we have a king, Jesus, he's Lord over all, and whatever he wants, we're in because it's his kingdom, and we're building and working toward his plan and what he's doing. So what are examples of building the kingdom of heaven, or things that would impact the kingdom of heaven? What are examples of works that would impact the kingdom of heaven? Give me some examples. Handing out the Bible. Meeting with the less fortunate, sharing God. Loving your neighbor. Providing care. Encouraging. I'm listening. I'm repeating because online they can't hear you. They can just hear here. So listening, yeah. What else? Giving.
Having children and raising them up.
Having children, raising them up. That was better than your answer in the first service. First service was making babies. And it seemed appropriate, and this was much clearer, Cam. Your spiritual act of worship. All right. Any other that you can think of? Praying. Any others? Sharing the gospel with your homies. Interceding for others. Praying for healing. Evangelizing. Having an exceptional attitude. So there's all sorts of these things that are a part of the building of the kingdom. And there's lots that Scripture talks about. One that didn't get mentioned is make disciples. Right? Like, this is one of the ones also. It's like, what does that mean? It's like, well, we're taking people with us on the journey towards Christ. So my goal, again, is not to guilt people into serving. I know that's often a thing. I shouldn't say a thing. That's not the intention, but often there's like putting guilt. That's not at all what the plan is for me to do it. But I want you to be inspired to go, okay, if I want to grow my walk with God, how do I engage? Because actually engaging in kingdom work changes you. It grows your faith. It causes you to have to reflect and sort through your life. It becomes addicting. It's highly motivating when you see transformation in the lives of people. There's something that is so, so good about it. So again, we talked about the mustard seed. We talked about words. Now I want to just talk real practical, and I was going to try to get to fasting today, but that will likely be next week mostly. So first, simple ways that we can use our words for building the kingdom. Okay, some of you are like, I got this, it's no big deal. Some of you are going to panic with these ideas. I'm not trying to say you all have to go do it, but it would be so wonderful if you explored some of these options. And I'm going to put it out there. If you want to go and use your words and build the kingdom, but you're not sure how, you can send me a message and say, I would like to, and I will bring you to the mall myself, and I will introduce you to people, and I will give you opportunities to share your story and the gospel, because it's no problem for me to open up conversation and put two people together and be like, wait, you're a Christian, right? Are you a Christian? Oh, you're not? Can you tell them why you're a Christian? And just like, I'll get coffee, and I'll just walk away. But we need to do something with it, I think. So first thing, just really practical, listen for felt needs of people. When you're engaged in a conversation, what are examples of like a felt need? And I say felt because that means like it's something that it's of value enough that it's like inside it's necessary. They have a need. What would be an example of a felt need? Food. Someone might need food, not have enough. That would be a felt need. What's that? Love could be a felt need. They are lonely. They have nothing. They feel like everyone is gone. Lack of purpose. What else? There was like, say? Feeling wanted. Someone who's grieving, the loss of someone. You have a sick, a friend or a spouse or a parent or someone who's sick and not well. That's a felt need. So when you engage in conversation with someone, in a culture where most people have everything. Like, you guys are like, if I would invite you to come out for dinner with me, most of you would be like, okay. And you could drum up $20 to go for dinner. You could do that. Maybe not every day, but most of us have the ability to do that. But what are the needs that people would have? Because why do you need God if you have everything? But we need them. There's some very specific things like the ones that we mentioned that are there. So when someone has a felt need, someone who's sick in the family or whatever it is, you're using your words, you're listening and looking and asking questions to find a felt need. And then from there, there's lots of things you can talk about. I'm just going to give you some of the sentences that I use. It feels a little bit like put on. I think that some people have told me that it really helps them to know, like, how do you just engage in conversation? So maybe I take it for granted, so I'll just help you a little bit. Here's a question I ask sometimes. If God could do a miracle for you in regards to whatever your felt need is, if he could do a miracle, what would you ask him to do? That's a good question. Even if they don't believe in God, if God was real, and if you could ask him to do a miracle, what would it be? Another question. If God did that miracle tonight while you were sleeping, what would be the first indication in the morning that would tell you that the miracle had happened? So if God doesn't tell you, but let's say loneliness was one of the ones. You're lonely, and if God is going to heal you of loneliness, what's going to be the first thing that you're going to experience in the morning that's going to tell you that you're no longer lonely? Because what you're doing is you're helping people reflect, and you're pointing it here, which I think is really important. Do you believe in God? It's a question I ask. Do you ever pray? When do you pray, or why do you pray? I'm someone who prays. I would like to pray for you. Would it be okay if I would pray on your behalf, pray for you right now, or go home and pray? Never have I been shut down in praying for people or asking to pray for them. In Korea, I think I talked about this. In Korea, that's how the second largest church in the world exploded, was by, they just got encouraged. Go to your neighbors and ask if there's anything you can pray for, and then go home and pray. Revival. We're like, I'm not quite sure. No, revival. And God was just hungry and desperate to meet. And then you have the great privilege and job of praying for those needs. Pray for them. Get on your knees. Ask God. And when God does a miracle, it transforms you as well. Builds your faith. I would encourage you to write it down in your schedule. Every morning, 6 a.m., pray for said person that you met at the outlet mall, that you talked with, and write it down every day to pray for them. And then look and see if you can find them again or have their contact. And did God answer prayer? Did God heal this person? And do that. I think it's really important. Okay, how about encouraging people? How many of you have ever gone shopping? Okay, some of you are not engaged. Get your hands up. You've all been in a store, for crying out loud. Okay. Wow, some of you are like, yep, never am I putting my hand up, because I will point you out. When you walk into a store, we talk about proximity. Cam is going to wheel in. When we wheel or walk into a store, we talk about wanting proximity with people. And in a store, you always get proximity. Who are the people you meet in a store always? Cashier. Who else? Greeter. Who else? Stalkers. Stalkers, that's interesting. I hope you don't meet a lot of stalkers. Yeah, right. People stocking shelves, not stalkers. But proximity is what we want. Oh, man. What would happen if when you went into a store, you're like, I'm just going to encourage one person instead of like, I'm just going to get my stuff done? What if it was just encourage one? Like the person putting tomatoes all neatly in the thing, and then you come and like touch them all and put them all different spots. But they like, what if we just went and be like, thank you for doing this? It makes it where I come over and I see this display and it's like, it's wonderful. And thank you that you would do it, because it makes my experience better shopping. Thank you. That might be okay. Cashier, like you give them a pound at the end. You're doing an awesome job. Are you allowed to have tips? Here's $5 for you. It's like, I can't do that. Okay, do you like O. Henry bars? Buy an O. Henry bar and give them the O. Henry bar. Imagine if we just encourage, you want proximity? Go to the same store, in the same community, get that cashier every time you can, and encourage and build up so they're excited when you come through the door. Make it a practice. Tell people they've done a good job. Encourage them that way. Some of you need to go shopping without the intent to buy a thing. Just go to meet people. Now you're thinking, okay, panic. Like that's weird, because how do you meet people? So I'm going to tell you how to meet people. One is you invite me to go shopping with you, and I will help you meet people. I promise. Okay? But there's another way. Okay? So Cam and I are going to wheel into the store. Cam loves to shop, and I don't particularly love to shop. This is the analogy. So Cam and I are going, I'm like, Cam, I need a buddy who likes to shop at the outlet mall. So will you be my buddy to do it? He's like, yeah, for sure. Then you walk and roll through the mall, and you look for how many of you have been to the outlet mall? I'm just using an example. So they have like these great spots to sit, right? Like really lovely spots to sit. So I'm like, okay, Cam, I see someone sitting by himself at this particular thing. Can you go shopping in there? And it's so simple. You just walk up to the person there. It's like, hey, how are you? Are you waiting for someone who's shopping? Yeah, you like shopping? No. Me neither. Do you want a coffee? I'll get you a coffee. And you just go and you buy a coffee and you come back. You bring them a coffee and sit down and you talk because you have a reason to be, you have a mutual thing that's going on, which is like, I hate shopping. It's like coffee. Now we're happy and it's wonderful. And if you don't know how to do that and you would like to, we can help you. This is going to help you wives who have husbands who don't like shopping. Be like, we're going to go do missions together. I'll go shopping. You're going to go minister. Some of you are like, that is atypical. Yeah, okay, so maybe you like to shop as a guy and the wife can go and talk. But I'm telling you, if there's people from another country or culture, most other countries and cultures are desperate to just talk. They want to. That's what their culture is. Not our culture in the West. We really need to learn from some other cultures. We suck pretty bad at this. But like, this is such a good opportunity. My wife and I, we were in an airport this summer when we went on went on our trip out west. And we just sat down at this like little place that had a fake fire with like tissue paper floating like this and a light in an airport. We're like, it's so weird. So we sat down on those like, I don't know, those lounger red chairs or whatever. And then, I don't know, 15 minutes later, a couple comes and sits down like across the way. And I was just like, we're going to just try it because that's what I do. I'm like, hey, how are you guys? Where are you guys off to? You coming home? And we started this conversation and we stayed and talked about almost everything you could imagine for over an hour as we waited. So easy. People are hungry for it. I think we take it for granted, coffee break, right? In church. It's like you go meet people and they want to talk to you, but like so many are lonely. Like, give me relationship. Give me something that's real. How about having extra money in your pocket to just tip people? What if you so I thought about this morning when I was going through this. It's like, if I had like a bunch of loonies in my pocket and then like you go to the store, and how many of you have ever shopped with a child under the age of 4? Okay, that's intense sometimes, right? Like, that can be a tough slug, right? And it's like, now if you're there and you're like, I don't have kids, that's the best, right? Like, I just got a pocket full of loonies. And you see a child that's like an orangutan, because that happens when you're under 4, and they're crazy. And then you catch them just doing one thing good. Like mom's like, no, you can't take that. And then the kid comes over and grabs mom's hand, and you just catch the child listening by grabbing mom's hand, even if mom like forced the grab, right? And you walk over and you be like, hey, I just noticed that you like listen to your mom. That really encourages me. Thank you for doing that. A lot of children have a hard time listening, and I'm so glad you did. And I just want you to know I'm encouraged. Here's a loonie for you to buy something. And you give the kid a loonie, and this child, if they're over 3, they'll probably remember some weird stranger at a store who gave them money for listening, and you just help the parent, right? You've helped the parent. But this is how it's so easy to encourage and build up and use our words for good. How about to share the gospel? How do you enter into conversation? Not just enter into conversation to get proximity and encourage and build up, but you can ask things like, if you could ask God for anything in the world, what would it be? I don't believe in God. I know, pretend there's a God. If you could ask God, who created everything, for something, what would it be? It just opens and allows a conversation. Do you have any big questions about life? What kind of big questions do you have? Would you ever ask God about that? What's your faith background? Did you grow up going to church? That's one of the ones I use all the time. Maybe they're like, oh, well, I grew up and I'm a Sikh. It's like, oh, fascinating. Would you ever have time to like sit down and go for coffee and you could tell me all about the Sikh religion? I would love to learn about it. Because wouldn't you want someone to come up to you and say the same thing about Christianity? It's like, Jono, I want to learn everything about Christianity. Can you tell me all about it? Would you be willing to go for coffee with me? You're like, yeah. Like we want people to ask us about our faith, but we get weird asking others about their faith. No, to know each other. How do you believe the world started? That's a good question. How about this one? This is one of my favorites. Do you think the government is out to screw us and there's a conspiracy going on. I'm kidding. That's what we used the last 2 years, and we're not using that one anymore. Have you ever encountered an evil presence before? Oh, a lot of people have encountered evil. If there's evil, do you think there's also good? Like, what do you think the good is, and what do you think the evil is? Have you ever lost a loved one, and how do you deal with sadness or sorrow? What do you think heaven is like? Or, hang on, I don't know if you know about or believe in heaven, but if there was a heaven, what do you think heaven would be like? These are things that I think are really good for us if we can engage in conversation, but it takes some intentionality to do it. Does that make sense? Does that help at all? I don't know. I dare you to try it. I dare you to take a risk, or I dare you to call and say, Donovan, let's go shopping. And I'd love to go into stores and just hang out and then sit from a distance and just watch and be like, that would be a delight for me. In the mustard seed talk, I started by saying that you start with something small. So one of the things we're doing in our community is we have a map of the area that we're praying for. Some of you haven't been around, but people have adopted streets within our area to pray for. And so on this map, you can see where Anchor Point is up there. And all the green are people who have already adopted those streets to pray for every week, to just go and to pray. And all the pink ones are ones that have yet to be adopted. But we're like a third plus of the way there. And so I'd love to encourage you, if you would like to just start and just adopt a street and be like, I'll pray for that street. I'll come early to church, or you'll come late to church and you're going to go pray down your street. I think it's just the start of God doing this. So info at your Anchor Point, prayer at your Anchor Point, Donovan your Anchor Point, Abby at your Anchor Point, all of them will tell you, just come and say, I'd like to pray for a street, or specifically this street because I live on it, or whatever that would be. And I'll start sending out emails now in the coming weeks to encourage us and help to remind you and how do you pray and give you some helps along the way. But in order to do these things, actually people need to schedule it into their lives. And if you don't ever schedule anything into your life, if you don't put something in and take something away, most people don't ever do it. So if you're not doing it, that's a challenge for what's going on. So if you're going to add something like this into your life, what are you going to take out? Now, I heard a fascinating interview by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Yeah, right. Yeah, he's a hero to a lot of people, I hear. Or maybe not. So he has no spiritual advice that I know of, but he does have a scheduling advice. And I listened to him and someone's like, what do you do? Like when do you get up in the morning? And this is what his answer was, roughly speaking. This is my paraphrase. Well, whenever I have my first appointment, I wake up 4 hours before my first appointment, because my morning routine takes me 4 hours. So if I have a meeting at 8, I get up at 4. If I have a meeting at 6, I get up at 2. If I have a meeting at 10, I get up at, yeah, you guys are good with math. One of you. Thank you, Alan. But this is the way he does it, because his routine requires him to go to the gym, to eat, to read, to eat again, to work out some more, then to eat, and then to shower and get ready for his day. And that's all for non-spiritual things. That's just like physically to look good on screen for our entertainment. What? And it's like a regimen, but like, what if we wanted to practice and actually we sought the kingdom first? What would we do? What would our schedules be like? I know I bark on this all of the time, but if you want 2 hours in the morning, you probably need to get up 2.5 hours before you go to work if you need 2 hours to get it together. And then you can like, okay, well then I should go to bed at this time. Then I should like this, and you can just work your way back. But most of us are like, we just kind of wing it, whatever we feel. But what if we actually lived this way for the kingdom where it has eternal value? Like go to the mall with intention to love and share the gospel with people. You'll never just do it. At least I don't know very many people that just do it. You have to plan to do it, because on one hand, I think the enemy is working hard to ensure we don't go down that road. But on the other hand, it's not part of most people's regular routine until you try it and bear some fruit, and then it becomes incredibly addicting. And fun, yeah. It's amazing, actually. So, what if you wanted to intentionally engage with a coworker? So you work somewhere and you're like, I want to engage with them. I wish I could. It's really easy to get relationship with a coworker. Use your money and buy them something. You just walk in. Hey, I'm going to get a bagel. Do you want a bagel? I don't like bagels. What do you like? I don't like anything. Do you like water? I'll get you water that's been prayed over by the saints of heaven, if you would like. No, but like, I'll get you something. They're like, I don't want anything. It's like, it's okay. And you go to a local place and you buy a bagel and you bring it back and be like, have an awesome Monday. I just appreciate you so much. Automatic in there and automatic in at the cafe that you go to, right? You go to the cafe, you're like, hey, how are you guys doing? They all have name tags, so it's like easy, right? It's like, Jane, so great to see you again. She's like, have we met before? Never. You just have a name tag. Thank you for making these bagels. Do you make these ones with love? Yeah, we make them with love. Oh, I can tell. I'm in here, I feel loved. And it's a start. You crack a joke, you're fun. And now you begin every Monday. You're getting a bagel for your person. You're going here. You're encouraging Jane. You write your own name tag next time you come. It's like, Jane, in case you were wondering, now you know who I am. They can call me Donovan, and that's it. But it's actually really easy, and we pray for proximity. Actually, just go get proximity in your everyday on what you're doing. Does that make sense? If you're kind to someone, it's memorable. If you encourage someone, it's memorable. If you buy someone something, it's memorable. These are all things that help to point and lead that way. And maybe it doesn't start with sharing the gospel or praying for healing, but maybe it gets there pretty quick as someone breaks down because for the first time, someone loved them and wanted to hear them. They're like, I am struggling. Yesterday, I was telling a story at a wedding, and I did this outreach and evangelism with a church in the North End, and I didn't like door-to-door evangelism. I hated it, so I didn't know how to get out of this particular thing that we were supposed to do. We were supposed to go door to door and tell them about Jesus. I'm like, I just can't. Some people can. I have a hard time. But I'm like, okay, I see this apartment building. I saw some work was going on inside. So I go in, and I just used encouragement. I'm like, hey, carpenter guy, like, you in here all day? Yeah. Do you want me to go get you a coffee? Because, like, would that be good? Or do you want an ice cap or something? Oh, that'd be amazing. Awesome. And so every day I just went to this carpenter who's working in this apartment, and we got talking. And eventually this lady who lived in the apartment, she came and talked with us. And I'm like, hey, do you want a drink too? Tomorrow I'm coming back. I'll get you a drink if you want. And so brought her a drink. And the last 2 days, she invited us to come into her place. We brought a few other people. And she told us about this spirit that she had live in her home. And that was her only friend. And she talked to the spirit all the time. I'm like, oh, that's weird. I've never heard about this before. Like, you just talk? Like, the spirit is in you. The spirit had a name. She spoke. The spirit spoke back to her. I was like, that is so weird. And then I just asked her if she wanted a relationship with Jesus. And she invited Jesus into her life. She got connected to the church. And I don't know, a week or two later, she got baptized. And within a couple of months, she had a Bible study in her home with people in her apartment. I'm like, God, what? Like, I got to probably do door to door. I probably have to, just like that, just obedience a little bit, set aside a week in my schedule to just go and minister. I was terrified, and God does this thing. You're like, okay, God, I'm in. Like, you can do everything because it's actually you. Last, oh my goodness, we are out of time. Yeah. We as church leaders, I think, unfortunately, have caused the church to become fat and lazy. You come, you put money in a box, you pay for me to preach, I'll study the word for you, I'll get up early for you, I'll pray on your behalf, I'll try to make you feel good, and I'll plan your activities. And I had this really great analogy that I used earlier today. It's like, you know when you're watching like a workout video, like Peloton commercial? You're like, oh, that's fantastic, and you eat chips and you drink a beer, and you're like, I should probably work out sometime, right? You're like, this is good. And then you come under conviction, and you're like, oh man, I gotta make some lifestyle changes in my life. So you remove the chips and you eat popcorn, and you remove the beer and you drink bubbly, and you sit up straighter. You're like, I got this. I've really turned my life around. That's sort of how we do church. It's like you're watching Peloton, and then you come, you're like, you know what? Yeah, I can give an extra half hour. I'll make coffee. I could do that, right? Like, yeah, I'll sit one row further, and it's like trading in the chips for the popcorn, right? I'll say one kind thing to someone, but actually the invitation is like, no, come and get healthy. Come and get spiritually healthy. Like, we do it in the gym all the time, but like, come get spiritually healthy. Like, let's do this together. Let's make a change and live this together. Because I think that would be way better. Don't you think? Be way better. So we've set up some things just to help you, to just give you a little kick in Le Derriere. So we do Journey 1, which is our discipleship class that you can sign up online. And this is like really hands-on. You're learning some of the basics of these things. You're going to learn about preaching, and you're going to learn about caring for each other, and you're going to learn about hearing God. And we do it for 5 weeks, starting October 15th, and you can sign up for it. And so many people have gone through, and it's really good. I encourage all of you to come and take it. And then we're doing Journey 2, and it's going to adjust, and I've talked about this, but I'm just going to mention it again. Journey 2, we're going to do a little bit different than we've done it. It started a building block, and God gave really clear vision, I think, this August to me. And so what we're doing with it is you're going to come for like one time, and we're going to talk about what the journey is going to be. And then we're going to have 2 tracks. One track is for the teacher. One track is for like visionary and even evangelist type thing. And so every other week on Saturday morning is what Journey 2 is going to be. So on the teaching track, you're going to come every other week, and we're going to learn how to dig into the theology. We're going to push each other in our belief. We're going to study the Word. We're going to learn Greek, biblical Greek. We're going to just pound through these things, and we're going to do it for 8 weeks every other week. So that's the teaching one. On the other one is visionary and evangelistic, and we're going to come together, pray, seek God, plan, and we're going to use our Saturdays to be in the community. We'll be here for a bit. You're going to strategize and sort through and work together, and we're going to partner and help you see. And maybe there's going to be some ministry that gets launched that's going to be a ministry of the church forever. Maybe it's just a little bit. Maybe you're going to teach English as a second language, or maybe you're going to run hockey at the outdoor rink on Saturday mornings and just keep gathering and bringing people. But we're going to run those 2 tracks to get our feet and our hands in action. Does that make sense? It's going to be exhilarating. Yeah, it's going to be exhilarating. And then last, the Engage and Equip weekend. It's just the start, prayer and fasting. It's just the start. I wanted to get to fasting today, and that will be next week. Fasting is a gift. It's not just abstaining from food or drink. Fasting is something that we receive from the Lord. And we're going to learn about that. And I guess my message is prep for next week because the entire message was on fasting today. So... yeah, so we didn't quite get there. Worship team, you can come up. Fasting deals with the demonic. Fasting strengthens us in earnest prayer. Fasting gives us guidance as we're seeking God. It delivers us, it protects us, causes us or teaches us to become humble, helps us in our grief. And these are just examples in Scripture of what fasting can be. Helps us to overcome temptation, but best of all, Luke 2:37, to want more of Him, to express love and devotion to God. Fasting is always connected. It's always accompanied to something else. It's not just the culture that we're in, which is like, it's just good to fast because it's good health for you, and it is good health for you. But we're not talking about just health. We're talking about spiritual health. So it's accompanied to something. So next week, we're going to dig into fasting, which I'm really excited for. And maybe you want to fast with us at the end of September. So Jesus, we are so grateful. We love you and thankful that we can look in your word, God. This morning's message is to be practical and to help us have ideas and thoughts. And now, God, the hard work of actually taking a risk to live it out. God, even now, like, if we're going to go to a restaurant after, if we're going to go for a walk in a park, or maybe we're going to go shopping, God, would you give us courage? Would your Spirit speak in our inner part and encourage us to take a risk or to try? God, I pray that you would help us grow our faith, that we would just, any opportunity, God, that we would take it for your kingdom, helping people get one step closer to you. God, for your bride to be one that obeys the king, for the bride to be one that is excited about the kingdom, for your bride to be such that would look upon the beauty of you and then so desperately want that beauty to be spread all over the place. God, I pray that the seeds that were being planted, learning how to speak to people, to hear, to planting seeds of prayer in the kingdom here or in our community here, God, these prayers are going to begin to sprout or birth, or like a mustard seed, it will grow. God, again, the prayer is that this part of the city is going to explode about things for the kingdom, that this would be the place that people would desperately want to come and live, because in this place you dwell, God, in this region of the city you dwell. And God, we want to see transformation here and in the city that we live in. And so grateful that you've been with us here today. Be praised. Amen.